Ashes of Creation, the holy grail of gaming, the MMORPG that will save the universe. If I am lucky, Ashes of Creation is gonna be playable by my grandchildren, and by playable I mean obviously maybe they're lucky enough to be able to buy a beta key for $50,000 if we're really lucky, and Steve gives us the fifth wave of beta keys while saying, well, this is actually not really profitable for the company because server maintenance is really expensive. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Anyway, Ashes of Creation, at this point, I have not seen anything good about it. I was hyped. I'm still kind of hyped and honestly hoping that it does turn out good. But let's be absolutely real. When the CEO of your company openly goes on Twitch and starts yapping about how great of a person he is because he chose to not sue a content creator that was saying not the greatest things that he liked about his game, I think there's a certain line that has been crossed there, and yeah, it's great. And now this absolute wonderful masterpiece is on Steam. Because, you know, the servers, the server expenses are too high, so people cannot join. That's why we stopped selling the beta keys.
Speaking of negativity, let's talk about some of the YouTubers that, in my opinion, are being overly critical of Ashes of Creation just as a whole. Now, this is a little bit of inside baseball, but I challenge you, the viewer, to look at these YouTubers that are highly critical of Ashes of Creation and take a step back and go look at their other content. Now, this is not every YouTuber that's critical of Ashes of Creation. Heck, I'm critical of Ashes of Creation in a lot of senses. But take a look at some of these people that are really banging the drum. It's a scam. It's a whatever they're saying. Are they negative about literally everything on their channel? Is their entire channel just negativity? Everything's a scam.
Okay, we're in for a banger of the video, okay? Because I love absolutely nothing more than these classic sentences of, oh, look at this person being negative about things that are bad. How dare he? How dare they point out things that are bad so other people don't fall for the bad things and lies? These people should leave the bad things alone and let the bad things get other people and whatnot. I love these arguments. And personally, by the way, I don't think my content is negative. Even mostly we cover things like Ashes of Creation being garbage and 99% complete, but somehow it's never gonna be complete. Okay, I find it hilarious. I absolutely take the greatest amount of pleasure talking about things that deserve to fail and obviously are pretty bad in most contexts. And Ashes of Creation, time to time, is one of those things.
Everything is bad. Everything is the end of the world. Yes? Okay. So these are what I like to call
great argument, buddy.
Doom tubers. And that means you really can't take their opinions super seriously.
Damn.
That's their genre of content. And then now they may have genuine concerns. It's very easy to be critical of it. It's very easy to look at.
Actually, being critical of things is extremely hard. Being hopium and copium. Oh, this thing's amazing, even though its shit is a lot more easier. May I add? If being critical was easy, then the gaming journalists would have never collapsed. Then the movie reviewers would have never collapsed, and these people that actually offer critical opinions would have never gotten big, depending on their niche. It would have never happened. If being critical was this damn easy, then none of these things would ever happen. But they're happening at an astonishing pace at that.
An MMO and be like, it's gonna fail. Why? Because most video games do. It's very easy for me to walk around and look and point at a restaurant and go, oh, that's gonna fail. That's gonna fail. That business is gonna fail, because statistically that's most likely going to happen. So I don't think a lot of these criticism.
That's a extreme oversimplification of the world, but I mean, at the same time, if you're gonna oversimplify things to that extent, what do you mean? Then the people pointing this are right. They are right. Yes, most businesses fail. Most things do fail, and that's just the way things are. Like, are we supposed to not point out objective reality in that case? Like, what is actually okay? At this point, I'm actually wondering, what does this guy think decent criticism actually is? I kind of get where he's saying, oh, undecent criticism is just saying things can fail because things indeed can fail. And well, personally, I never criticize things like that. I actually criticize objective things. But you know, I wondered what is his cutoff here.
Especially like the really heavy-handed ones are really super fair. There's plenty to criticize, trust me, and I have. But some of these people, they're really jumping the shark, I feel like. And before this video gets used against me, I'm going to go ahead and make some early predictions on what's going to happen when Ashes of Creation comes to Steam. So, first thing that's going to happen, almost 100% certain of this, I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen, the game was going to get review bombed. 100%.
Yeah, obviously. How much is the Steam early access, by the way? So, you're paying a game to go into early access, and it's not even close to finished, or whatever this is. The problem with Ashes of Creation and how finished it is the fact that it has been this unfinished for literally years, and from my perspective, it doesn't seem like it gets better. My favorite example was the whole desert debacle. If you don't know what the desert debacle is, it was the situation with YouTuber named Narc who covered Ashes of Creation, criticizing the desert when it was implemented by the company that makes Ashes of Creation, and his argument was that the desert doesn't exist. And then the CEO of the company said, "Oh, he's obviously lying. The desert does exist." And what made that situation super annoying and stupid was the fact that both of them are technically right but technically wrong. Narc was right about the desert not existing because it didn't exist. The whole desert, which is supposed to be this huge, let's say, yeah, this was the desert that they implemented. It was nothing else. That was literally nothing else. That was the desert that they implemented. It was stuff that you could already see from early promotion material. Was it promotion material? I don't remember. But it was stuff that you saw like 2 years ago. And the Ashes of Creation makes this whole thing, oh, we're implementing the desert. And they implement nothing. It's not the desert. It's not the finished desert. It's literally the stuff you saw in the promotion materials. And some of that stuff, I'm pretty sure, was literally years back. So and then Steven comes out, that's the CEO of Ashes of Creation, and he says, oh no, here's the desert. And it's like this little tiny blimp on the map. And it's exactly as you saw it in the early promo materials. Yeah, but you probably... Technically, we got the desert, but we didn't really get a desert. It's that type of situation, and that's really annoying.
No matter what, it's going to get review bombed for multiple reasons. First thing is that people are just conditioned to not like the game. I think you can't really...
No one's conditioned to not like the game. Everyone was super hyped, including myself, when the game was first announced and we saw early things. I and many other people overlooked obviously bad animations and things like that, saying that they're gonna get better. Surprise, surprise, it's now been literally multiple years later and it has not gotten better, as far as I know at least. A lot of concerns that people still had at the start are still there.
Undersell that, but also, legitimately, the game is rough around the edges. It's going to have launch issues, day one issues when it first comes up, because they're just not going to be used to that.
I don't know if we're supposed to call sentences like that as lies, by the way, because the game has been rough around the edges for years, and not a lot of that has been fixed. You can't say, oh, the game's rough around the edges a little bit, when it has been like that exactly for a long, long, long time.
Level of concurrency. They might open up another server, and then that server might die because of the tourist effect. So this is particularly a thing with beta MMOs. With betas and other types of games that aren't nearly as like time and commitment heavy, you don't really have the same feeling. Like playing the Battlefield beta, you're not like, oh, I'm wasting my time playing the Battlefield beta. There's not that same level of like progression and grind and achievement in the same way. But with MMOs, there is. And this leads to a tourist effect where somebody is legitimately interested in Ashes of Creation, but they don't want to play a beta, but they still jump in and check it out. Like, I just want to mess around, see what it's about, see what all has changed. There's a lot of people that are going to do that. And there's a lot of people that are going to do that, play the game, and then leave the game very quickly. So inevitably, people are going to be like, look at Ashes of Creation. It died in a week. The players started off here and now they're here. That's going to happen regardless because people are going to jump in, check it out, and leave. I've done that before. A lot of you guys have probably done that before. You're like, you don't want to play.
Oh, I know why he's saying this. Because Ashes of Creation has had a huge exodus of players, and it literally never got them back. That's why he's saying this. I mean, semi-valid point, I guess. I don't honestly think this matters too much. A game is going to lose players over time, unless you're hard creators.
Much time into a beta and have it get wiped. That's a very valid, legitimate. Next up, and this is a very legitimate reason, is that the leveling is pretty weak. I'm going to be honest with you. The leveling is very grindy. There's not a lot to break up that grind. Now, a lot of that is intentional. This is intended to be a more slow-paced MMORPG. They just aren't going to put a quest system into the game like you would expect from a World of Warcraft or a Final Fantasy 14. It's not going to happen. I made a whole video talking about this previously, like 2 years ago, and people were like, no.
So this actually makes the criticism against Ashes of Creation even more on point, because he's saying, oh, you're literally gonna have Anarchy Online type of map. There's an open world full of nothing, and there's like a mob here and there sprinkled in between and in the middle. That's it. So the fact that they have not finished the game when they're not gonna have these quests and things like that also is kind of insane. Because from everything that we understand about this game so far, there's not a lot of ways you can justify how unfinished it is with the amount of money it raised, with the amount of people working on it, and so on. It is really hard to justify. It is Star Citizen. It is Star Citizen levels of how is this even possible?
They're gonna have a whole quest system. Dude, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Something like that is ludicrously expensive. And that's just not the kind of game Ashes is. They might have some quests. Best case scenario, they add like more quests similar to like a RuneScape, where it's like they're in that same RuneScape fashion rather than just like a million exclamation marks and a million quests and voice acting and all that stuff. But they do need to break it up a little bit more. Those dynamic events need to be better. They need to somehow break up the monotony of just endlessly at a camp 24/7. I get that it's going to be slow. I think most people are okay with that, but just having more optionality, and then this is getting better. I will say this is an element of the game that has gotten better. I know people that got to level 25 last phase that hardly killed any mobs at all. They did it through processing and gathering, and legitimately are leveling up in different ways. But with all that being said, let's say they perfectly diversify the leveling and it's compelling and you're not just forced to do one thing. It's going to be long. It's going to take
I mean, it already sounds like they have diversified the leveling.
A long time, and people aren't used to that. They're gonna, they're coming.
People are used to that. World of Warcraft getting to 60 for the average person takes like, what is it, 2 months, 3 months, something like that? People on the faster tail end of things take a month to get to level 60 on Classic.
From World of Warcraft, where you can go 1 to max level in, 24 hours? That's probably slow. But 8 hours? I don't know. They're used to that pace. They're used to, voice acted storyline quests. Like, you're just not going to get that with this game. This game is much more similar to a RuneScape, where it's like, this is a grinder game, man. It's just an old school kind of more grindy vibe. The next reason why Ashes is going to get review bombed is that it's a PvX game.
Now, I completely disagree with that. That sounds absolute 100% cope. Oh! The World of Warcraft Zoomer audience that once voice acted quests is not gonna like it. No, that's cope, okay?
That will destroy your ego.
I mean, some people will not like it through, but I mean, to review a bomb a game because it doesn't have voiced quests. Most games don't have voice quests, my dude. What do you mean? Most games absolutely do not have voiced quests, and we have never heard of a game failing because it didn't have that. So I mean that's weak.
Now, I have seen this before in my MMO days, back with a little game called WildStar. WildStar was also another MMO that just destroyed people's egos. They could not handle it. They thought they were going to come into the new game. You know, they're in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. They're a fucking nobody because they're just a fucking peon, a peasant, like most people, which is fine. But they have delusions of grandeur. I'm going to come into the new game and I'm going to be Billy Badass. I'm going to be the shit. And they're going to get whooped. They're going to get whooped because I remember, especially in phase 1 of Ashes of Creation, like the game was pretty tough. Like the mobs would fuck you up.
No, the game was not really tough. It was just really, really poor and unplayable. That's what you actually mean.
And Ashes of Creation, with it being a PvX game, with there being a PvP element, with there being competition, with there being limited amounts of things, you know, only so many people can be mayors. There's only going to be so many flying mounts. I'm sure that amount is going to get reduced. This is a zero-sum game in many regards. And Steven himself has said not everybody gets a trophy. And, you know, we're coming from an MMORPG client where literally everybody gets a trophy. Everybody has everything. Nothing means anything. So this...
Are we? Well, like, I feel that that's made up. All of these past MMOs that have launched in the last couple of years that have seen reasonable success, World of Warcraft. Does he just think World of Warcraft retail is is actually the whole world? Because it feels like he's painting everything in the World of Warcraft retail colors. But even there, it's like mythic raiding is not for everyone, and the rewards that you get for mythic raiding are, you know, only for mythic raiding. And doing stuff like that at the high end, the gladiator PvP grinds and whatnot. I mean, WildStar did not fail, for example, because it was crushing people's egos. WildStar failed because its initial development was like, okay, we're gonna make this your new job. To play WildStar efficiently, this is gonna be your new job, so you better quit, buddy. That's why WildStar failed. WildStar even admitted this when later on, when they understood it. Wait a minute, people are quitting because we just made the requirement for playing the game so abysmally high in general, too much, and then they were like, here's easier things to do. Not everything needs to be hardcore. WildStar kind of died because of that, if I remember correctly.
This game, it seems to churn up a similar kind of hate that WildStar did, where WildStar had that same vibe. And dude, people, when you destroy somebody's...
Also, this is the first time I hear anyone compare Ashes to WildStar.
Ego, like they hate you for it. And then you have the actual PvP element of it, which is funny because really Ashes of Creation, like, nobody ever gets killed in PvP non-consensually. You pretty much have to opt into a PvP event to be killed. You theoretically could get killed out in the open by yourself, like, and somebody goes corrupt on you, but no one does that. No one I know of has intentionally done that outside of, like, you got to really piss somebody off. I have been killed in cold blood corrupted before, but that's because I deserved it. That's because This guy really did not like me, and it's almost
Okay, so it can't happen, but it can happen? I don't get the point.
a badge of honor. If you play the game, you know that if somebody goes red and corrupts on you, and you're the one that died, you're almost happy because you're like, wow, this guy hates me so much. He's willing to deal with the absurd risk, penalties, pain in the ass. The corruption penalty is so big that people bait each other into accidentally going corrupt. If you are worried about Ashes of Creation being a gank box where you're just going to be walking around and just innocently die, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But there is a crowd of gamers, of PvE gamers, where they don't even like the concept or idea of it even potentially happening ever. And not only that, they don't want any PvP in the game at all. They don't want anything in the game to be gated behind PvP at all, or to have it be a...
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. Again, I do think this is kind of ridiculous that people say stuff like that they don't want any PvP and the game is blatantly around PvP. Thrones of Liberty is a great example where people complain about PvP, but the game is literally made about PvP. Now, granted, Throne and Liberty did lose out a lot of people because, well, no one fucking likes the PvP, and it was laggy and whatnot, but that's a different story. If you're complaining about PvP existing in a game that explicitly is doing PvP, that's kind of on you, okay?
A little bit more efficient if you're in a PvP area. These PvE only gamers are the most annoying and entitled gamers there are. I can't stand them. Because think about it. We're playing an RPG where we're emulating, Dungeons and Dragons, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. We're emulating these fantasy universes. And a compelling part of these fantasy universes is generally the conflict. And you want to remove the conflict? It's outrageous. It's as ridiculous as me being a PvP oriented player being like, you know what? No dragons, no professions, and no...
Okay, we get the straw man argument.
Game better. You don't necessarily have to love PvP. Maybe you don't even participate in it at all.
Still going, eh?
Of the human element. So, yeah. People are gonna lose in PvP and get butthurt and slam the reviews, or just be upset that they have to engage with PvP in this...
Wait! Yeah, there's gonna be some people that are gonna Is this still about review bombing even? Jesus Christ. We're kind of blowing out of the proportion the amount of people who are gonna do X. He's covering all the categories. Jesus Christ. People that inhale oxygen are gonna dislike the video because it's harder to inhale oxygen while playing Ashes of Creation at this point.
Smallest way possible and slam the reviews. And the final reason, and this is something that can't be understated, is that people love dunking on new MMORPGs, regardless of which MMORPG it is.
Do they?
Why? Because they have...
I think it's the exact opposite. People are excited for new MMORPGs because there have been so many of them. People are like, oh, a new MMORPG. Let me play that for a week and then quit. It's going to be new. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be an experience. People love new MMORPGs.
Have a sunk cost fallacy with whatever MMO they're currently playing. People have been playing World of Warcraft.
Oh, I have talked about this. The sunk cost fallacy has gone out the window, in my opinion, in a massive way. Since the moment that the first game understood, wait a minute, how about I reward my players for everyday logins and give them skins and things like that? The moment that started happening en masse, the cost sunk fallacy, I think, went out the window pretty hard. Nowadays, it's like, I care about my World of Warcraft account because it's like 15 years old at this point. That's what people care about. But the typical person, like, what is the difference between MMO1, where you have 15 skins given and 15 items and things given to you for free, so you play it, And MMO2, where you have 17 things given to you for free. There's no difference. People literally could not care less. The sunk cost fallacy has really been on a super steep decline, in my opinion, in general.
Or Final Fantasy or Guild Wars 2 or whatever their MMO is for 10, 15, 20 years. They've become very attached to them. They don't want their achievements and their shinies in those games to be undermined by the fact that there's a new game. If Ashes of Creation or the Riot MMO.
Okay, now now that argument is just flat out bad. Because you play a game, you're gonna now actively try to destroy other games because your game needs to be the best. Again, yeah, these people do exist, but they're a super minority. Jesus Christ. The highest battle that has ever existed was between League of Legends and Dota. And nowadays, no one literally cares.
Comes out, and that's the game people care about. Well, guess what? Nobody cares that you have a Azulian Tiger in World of Warcraft. Like, nobody cares, so they get very defensive. They don't want anything new coming out because they've got something they really care about with their old game. So this is something that's always happened with MMORPGs. You're starting to see this more now with other types of genres, with games as a service and ecosystems with like CS:GO skins and Apex, and everything's becoming like an ecosystem where they want you to like be in this walled garden forever. So you're seeing this with other genres, but the MMO genre has always had this. So yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of the negative Steam reviews that the game is assuredly going to get are going to come in bad faith. I think they're going to come from people that really had no intention of attempting to enjoy the game. And that's not to say there's not plenty of things to criticize. Trust me, the fans of the game, the people that have put the most hours in, have plenty to complain about.
Oh, no, I think this is grasping at straws.
And they do, but it's not those things. There's plenty of things, weaknesses in certain game loops, long-term incentive structures, the balance between melee and range they still haven't figured out yet. There's plenty to complain about, trust me, but it's just not going to be the scam MMO. It's a scam. Like, it's not going to be the low IQ Reddit shit that you're seeing all over. So most of the criticism,
I think people at this point who think Ashes of Creation is a scam are 100% valid to having that opinion. Again, it's been this long, it's been this much money, it's been this and that and this and that and yet again and yet again and yet again. And we're not seeing a lot, okay? What was at the start of the year? At the start of the year, if I'm not mistaken, I covered something Ashes of Creation drama related or whatever. And then it was like, oh, the game's launching in a year or two, was the official narrative or something like that people were saying. Again, looking at how much they have finished, I said this and I'll say this again. It looks like Ashes of Creation is like 10, 15 years away from being in an actual playable state. So, that's kind of it. What was this part? Why is Ashes of Creation isn't a scam? What was this part, though? Huh?
The worst cash grab in the history of cash grabs. Yeah. So the math on this does not make any sense.
Oh, wait, math?
With the millions of dollars he's made off this scam.
Oh, math.
To Steam. Now, I can already hear Reddit. It's a cash grab. Steven's going to run off into the night with the millions of dollars.
He's not going to do that. He's not gonna obviously do that. But at the same time, they did make a lot of money, and a lot of things don't make sense.
He's made off this scam. No, dude. This is the opposite of a cash grab. This is a very, very negative cash grab. The worst cash grab in the history.
Is it? He literally sell $200 beta keys or alpha keys or whatever it's called.
Cash grabs. Yeah, so the math on this does not make any sense. First of all, let's talk about servers. So they're starting this off.
Oh god, don't tell me it's gonna be the server. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'm tired. I'm not gonna listen to this. I'll just give you the server thing, okay? When the $200 keys came out, the reason why they were so expensive was server costs for like a couple of months or whatever. And I mean, just think about it for a second. You literally have online games that are selling for $50 $30 a pop, and they can pay the server costs so magically how. But here comes Ashes of Creation that has $200 alpha keys, and they're saying, yeah, the server cost is just really big, so that's why we put them up. And then they cut off those keys and say, like, yeah, we don't want server costs to balloon out of control because these $200 per key are not gonna be, not gonna cover it. Dude, are you kidding me? Are you really believing the fact that $200 is not gonna fit the bill for like half a year for server fucking costs? Are we real? Or whenever the thing was happening, it wasn't even that you could play for half a month at that point when it came out, was it? Or however it was. And most people are gonna leave, so you're gonna have like 1/3 of your audience left at best after a month, and again, $200 keys sold are not gonna cover the server costs. Again, that is absolutely preposterous and insane. Okay, buy Amazon Cloud Services or something. Anyway, that was a Zyback 10, absolutely 10 out of 10. The Ashes of Creation community is wild and boys, and it is kind of funny. Anyway, remember, if you ever say anything negative about anything, negative and bad, you're a bad person because reasons.